the best part. Well, it's already live.
Oh yeah,
We're live.
It just went live. It was just like live, but there's no one waiting yet. See, so we get this control.
oh, so there's nobody here.
Now there's people here.
It's taking a
So
second.
we told them. Okay, so here's a fun fact.
I just sent a link to my Instagram story saying live now.
You did? Chad Gilbert did that, ladies and gentlemen. It's Chad Gilbert. Hey, wait, Lindsay, we told them we were coming live on the 10th of January, right? We did.
Yeah, I think we did.
And this is the right day, right, of the week?
It is a Tuesday.
It's Tuesday,
it is
Jay.
the 10th.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. We
6
went
p.m.
live. Oh, I get it. Welcome to Taylor Primetime. Hey, Gabe, roll the clip. Oh, that was.
What time is it? What time is it? It's prime time. It's prime time. What time is it? Well, it's prime time. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hey, it's another Tuesday night. It's time for prime time. Primetime is a kind of a geeky, nerdy guitar show, talk show, live online show that we do. And we're glad that you're here tonight along with us. Tonight, special guest from Newfound Glory. Please welcome Mr. Chad Gilbert. Hey, Chad. Welcome to PT. As always, Primetime's peoples, Mr. Mike Venezia, Mr. Lindsay Love, and your host, Jay Parkin. We got no rules on Primetime. The only rule is, don't be a hater. So, grab a comfy chair, your favorite tasty beverage, sit back, and enjoy the show. Cheers.
Dude, that's
a great song.
That was a good one. I hadn't. So he sent it to me, and I promised myself I wasn't going to watch it. I didn't watch it, so I was not prepared for that. I had no previous. Oh, Andy Lund, where is Andy? He's
somewhere in the
say it with
Northwoods.
me. He's in the Northwoods, Jay.
Northwoods.
So, Chad, welcome to the show.
Thank you
Andy
for having me.
Lund is his name, and he actually lives somewhere else. None of us really know where he lives.
Alaska?
But he's
Antarctica.
It's somewhere. But his territory, he's on our sales team, and his territory is in some of the Asian markets. So sometimes time zones, he has to bail out on the show and do some selling of guitars. So we don't have a budget for Primetime unless he sells guitars. That's the reality here.
He's like the Ultimate Warrior from Parts Unknown.
Yes, exactly. From Parts Unknown, but we really don't know where he is. But tonight he's not with us. Chad, we're so pumped to have you on the show, man. It's going to be an exciting one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a dear a friend, a comrade in the music industry. He's one of the hardest working people I know. His story is so exciting and inspirational, and it's going to be a really, really good time. So, Chad, we have some segments that we do up front, so follow along, and then we'll get into an interview. First things first, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm great, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm great. Just enjoying some of this rain.
Yeah, it's rainy in San Diego, and we don't know what to do with it. It's raining in California. My niece is up in the northern California area where there's the floods and everything that's going on. And her husband works in in electrical and electricity. He's running all the wires and getting everybody, set up with electricity again. So it's a big deal. Hope and sending them good vibes. Mike Venezia.
Yes, sir.
Where's Roger? How are you doing?
Roger, you're being called for.
There's Roger.
There he is, chewing on one of his favorite toys, being a good boy. He's almost 2. His birthday is next week. He's going to be 2.
I love it. Roger. So, Chad, Roger's, as you can see, not a human, but he's a good part of the show. We love him to death.
Unofficial
Mike,
co-host.
How are you doing, dude?
I'm over this rain. I'm way over it at this point. Look,
did you get your shoes wet or something?
Rain once in a while is fine. I moved to Southern California to avoid rain, snow, all these other things. And then when you get like 11 out of 12 days of rain, it starts to get old, I don't care where you live, it's old. But the upside is, and apart from the downside that everybody in Northern California is feeling, the upside is when this starts to dissipate, Southern California turns like emerald green. Like everything turns into Ireland. It's amazing. And you think like, oh, the low desert and this, that. No. Those hills are green for like a week and it's beautiful to drive past them. So
check this out.
That is something I'm looking for. Yeah. You see
check
that?
This out. Paulie posted the weather report in Chicago. Paul Tobias over here posting the weather. Looks like a nice day there, Paulie. Oh, well.
Meanwhile, a week and a half ago, it was like negative 14 degrees there.
I know. He's into Chicagoland. So how was everybody's holiday? How was your holiday, Chad? How was your
holiday? Was good. It was great.
Yeah.
Like I have Christmas was awesome. We went to Dollywood.
Really?
It was awesome. Yeah, every December we go to Dollywood because like she goes off on her amusement park for Christmas. Like it's the most Christmas lights you've ever seen. And the roller coasters are fun. I'm retired from roller coasters currently.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who tours with us meet us up there. So my wife and my friend Josh got to ride the roller coasters while I watched the baby. So it was cool.
Hey, that works. You know what? I remember so vividly about you, Chad, and we've known each other for quite a long time. We probably met each other 20, if not more, 20 years ago. And one of the things I remember is holidays. Like you are a holidays person.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoy when people are holidays people, like Halloween. You're like all the Halloween and you do all the things and dress up, and you're the guy who probably has like a different costume every
I
party.
have 3 outfits a year, like every Halloween, like for different parties. Like
yeah. But Christmas, and you're probably the Easter Bunny guy, and so you as a dad, I can only imagine it's like.
I'm not really the Easter Bunny guy, but is there an Easter Bunny guy? Like
I don't know. Like Mike might dress like
Absolutely.
for Roger. You dress in a Easter Bunny costume, Mike?
I rarely, and when I do, I certainly don't announce it.
All right, 83. So there's 83 live viewers right now. So I was waiting for this moment to happen so that we could make this announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know that my mother is a avid viewer of this show, and tomorrow is her 83rd birthday.
Wow.
So if we could all wish my mother happy early birthday. Mom, I love you. And this was your nod. This is happy birthday, Jay's mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to
I was waiting. I was waiting for that to happen. I was just watching this clicker kind of go like up and down. And can you believe that 86 people right now are just hanging out with us? This is wild. Wait a second. I recognize some of these names in the feed over here. This is great. All right, let's get moving. Yeah. So we do a segment up front, Chad.
Okay.
But before we do this segment, it's called What Are You Listening To? It's a really hard question. So think about it. What have you been listening to lately? Hold on, though. But before we get started, guys, let's remember, keep the feed clean. Let's keep the nerd and guitar nerd and make sure that we don't have to put you in timeout. That would be such a bummer if we had to do that. Derogatory stuff is going to be you're going to get the boot. We don't want that. There is an Evans question at the end of the show, aka trivia. We got a good question tonight with an awesome prize. We are giving away a Taylor Sense smart battery box again, and also a black Taylor coffee mug.
Look at that.
Look at
Can
that.
I
You need
add
one
that?
of these, Chad. Maybe I'll send you one. Okay,
Appreciate
let's
it.
go right into this. My paperwork is upside down. Oh, we also do a segment called Hug Your Haters, but guess what? We got no hate. Kind of. Here's the deal. I've noticed a new trend in hate. So, Chad, when someone has something negative to say about the show,
Mhm.
or they send us an email and they're like, totally worthless or terrible or stuff like that, we like to embrace them and say, look, we love you back. We understand it's not for everybody, but look, we don't want to take ourselves too seriously. We're guitars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just having a good time. So we didn't get any hate, but what we've been getting lately is very polite suggestions. Yeah, that's a good one. So one of the suggestions was a show about how to work the Taylor ES2. So I think I'm going to have Gabriel come back on, not now, later, but I'm going to have Gabriel come back on in a few weeks, and we're going to really talk about dialing in our EQ. We'll talk about gain structure and how to dial in our ES2 electronics. So it'll be fun. Now let's go into what are you listening to? I don't need to play a useless clip. We've got this thing down. Chad, what music have you been listening to lately?
Man, I'm all over the board, currently, man. So not to like, I actually am listening to this. This isn't just to advertise our tour, but the girl that's opening up our tour, her name's Leanna Firestone, and her music is awesome. It's my booking agent actually sent it to me, so I didn't like he's the one who like sent it to me like, oh, this would be great for the tour, and then I started listening to the record, and it's awesome because her lyrics are kind of like, they remind me of almost like Say Anything, like really honest, brutal, like Max Bemis lyrics. And then the music reminds me of like Regina Spektor. So it's like really melodic and beautiful music with like these really harsh, honest lyrics, which is really a lot of times like when I hear singers that are like harsh and honest, the music is kind of harsh, like like the sound, and hers is just like these really like beautiful medleys. So Leanna Firestone I've been listening to. She's opening up our tour. But then on the whole other side of things, I love this band called Gridiron. They're like a hardcore band, and it's like super like 90s, like reminds me of like old Downset or some like not really Rage Against the Machine, more like Downset, but just like this really like heavy hip hop influenced hardcore. Hardcore band called Gridiron. So I like them, and then Leanna Firestone. So it's like totally opposites,
That is another thing I remember about just us in passing is how eclectic. I think we have that bond a little bit of how eclectic our music tastes are, because I'll do like, hip hop on one week, and then next week it's like nothing but metal. So
yeah,
or some sad singer-songwriter stuff from time to time. It's fun. Anyway,
yeah. My Spotify recommendation, my Spotify playlist that they recommend me are just like, they're so crazy. It's like Cannibal Corpse, death metal, and then like Mother Goose Club for my baby, like baby music. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like whoever is programming these or what, the computer must be like, this guy is psycho. Like
they can't get a read on you. They're like, what should we feed this guy?
Yeah.
It's so good.
What does he want to listen to?
What has he been listening to lately? Yeah, it's so good. Mother Goose Club, that's
Encanto?
for sure. I love it. Lindsay, what have you been listening to?
I've been listening to I'm still on King's Disease 3 from Nas. That's just like, it's brilliant. A lot of Kendrick.
Okay, you can time out just real quick there.
Yep.
It is so good. I cannot stop listening to it. I listen to it like every third record, I think, at this point. So I listen to it every day. Yeah. Okay. So King's Disease 3.
Yeah, I'm with
Nas.
you. And Kendrick, Mr. Morale, and the Big Steppers, his latest album, like that is just It's brilliant. Poetry, jazz, hip hop, all mixed into one. I'm listening to a lot of I was listening to a lot of Ella Fitzgerald, some of her like Christmas stuff with like
Yes.
Louis Armstrong, and then Bill Evans. He was actually, I was listening to him on the way home from work today. So Bill Evans is an incredible jazz pianist. And then, yeah, I mean, it's all over. Michael Jackson, my daughter, we were jamming out to him this weekend between Off the Wall and Thriller. Like, that's just her favorite right now. It's like her favorite artist. So
That's awesome.
yeah, a little bit of everything.
You know what's interesting is we just came out of the holidays. We didn't have a holiday episode, but last year we had a holiday episode, and we talked about what our favorite records were, like holiday records. And Chad,
Yeah.
I brought up the Newfound Glory Christmas record because it has become a family favorite of ours. So it goes like it goes definitely Gwen Stefani. Sia has a great Christmas album. There's always some like Elvis in there, Ella in there, but Newfound Glory has become one that my daughter puts on a regular basis, which is pretty fun.
That's really cool. Yeah, that
generational. You are a generational talent here,
That's
Chad.
awesome. Well,
okay, Mike, what have you been listening to?
Oh,
this is always good too.
Yeah, it's all over the map. So and for those of you that know, obviously I'm a vinyl junkie. So every weekend I have to go crate diving and find some cool things. And when I walked out of the store the other day, these guys had to think that I'm like schizophrenic, much like Chad's playlist. You know, I've been on this yacht rock kick like big time over the past few months. And a shout out to Taylor Artist Yachtly Crew. Hello, guys. And I wound up picking up, like, of course, in the dollar bin, like Captain and Tennille and Dan Hill and Robbie Dupree, like all this yacht rock stuff, you know, one hit wonders and what have you. But then I also picked up the Foo Fighters and Sleep and the Black Sabbath Sabotage Super Deluxe box set. So it's kind of all over the map, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
That's awesome.
That Black Sabbath box set, though, I got to tell you, whoever, I think the gentleman from Porcupine Tree, Stephen Wilson, I think remixed the stereo mix for that box set, and it sounds amazing. I mean, Stephen Wilson just has two of the most amazing ears in music, and all the remixes he does are absolutely outstanding. So,
yeah,
big thumbs up.
That's true. Awesome. Mine are quick. I've been beating the Newfound Glory songs, the new ones, the acoustic ones, to death, but that's beside the point. I'm just giving you a nod because you're here. It's a plug.
Recorded with Taylor guitars
at the castle. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But so King's Disease, Nas record gets played constantly. When it rains out at my house, we listen to a lot of Radiohead for some reason. I don't know. Makes sense to me. But so I have been listening to a lot of Radiohead, but after tonight's show, I'm going to a show. I'm going to see this band. It's kind of like a super group that was formed 15 years ish ago, called The Sound of Animals Fighting. And it is some Taylor players, Keith Goodwin, who we did I Know What Love Is with Keith Goodwin. He's in the band. Anthony Green sings in the band, but it's this band, the RX Bandits, with like 45 different singers. It's really wild how they do it. And so it'll be fun and interesting. So we're going to go shoot some content over there, those guys playing, but it's super eclectic. So that led me into, Chad, is total like RX Bandits deep dive.
Oh yeah.
Watching, it was like they did this Beatles thing where they were like a ska punk band that turned into this experimental wild rock band that is just, I think the last real record they came out with was like in 2014 maybe, but it's just like, check it out. If you're into real experimental stuff and just fun rock like that, RX Bandits all day long.
It's crazy. Yeah, when we would tour together, they had these like awesome, like ska punk like anthems, like really poppy anthems. But then they reinvented themselves, and then it worked too. Like I feel like they got even more fans when they reinvented themselves and became more of like art, like, you know, experimental rock and all the jam, kind of like however you describe it, you know, is awesome.
Yeah, it's a special band, so it's going to be really fun to go see them tonight. But
Cool.
I'm excited about this. So let's dive in real quick before we get into this interview with Chad. I want you guys to mark your calendars. We got awesome shows coming up in the next month or so. Again, we're going to have some of our Taylor guys jump on. You know what, Mike, we've never had Sakamoto on. I think it would be a good idea to have Eric Sakamoto on. That would be
I
fun.
think that would be the loudest episode we've ever had.
It would be the loudest episode, but he's so much fun. He's wild, man. I love him. Anyway, but we have some really good ones. We have Linda Taylor and Sarah Nimitz on. Linda Taylor is a musician. She plays on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And she works with Sarah. Sarah was on I Know What Love Is with us, so that was fun. Stevie Salas is going to be on. Stevie Salas, if you know, he wrote all of the music for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, I believe, but he also he did worked on a documentary, Indigenous people in music and guitar and rock, and so we're gonna it's a documentary called Rumble that is on Netflix right now, so you should check it out before he jumps on. Stevie Salas, I mean, this dude is like, oh yeah, played with Rod Stewart. Who else? Man, he played with everybody. And whenever you're on a call with him, he talks. He just starts like, pew, dropping these names, pew, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm flying up to Canada with Matt Sorum tomorrow. And you're like, what? This is awesome. So that's gonna be fun. And then Jason Schooner from Telefunken. So we're gonna actually have a Mike. He's the rep over at Telefunken, but he's got a wild story. He recorded some amazing bands. I think he went out on tour with the Dead for a little bit and like has like all of this really cool recorded stuff. Blues Traveler, he recorded this Blues Traveler acoustic tour 25 years ago, and I believe they're putting it together to release it. And so we're going to talk about that. It's going to be so much fun. But tonight's show is Chad Gilbert. Chad Gilbert. I'm going to set this up real quick, Chad. So forgive me if I get anything wrong. Me. Chad Gilbert, best known as a founding member of the rock band New Found Glory. Oh, that's fair. For whom he plays lead guitar, sings backing vocals, and composes the music. Interesting. He's a producer. In fact, he produced well-known Taylor artist Lisa Loeb, which is really cool. So we'll talk about that. A founding member of, I threw this one in there. You know this. A founding member of the hardcore supergroup Hazen Street. Yeah?
Yeah.
That is true. Gosh.
Yeah, very true.
I remember that. I hope you guys should play shows again, maybe. Cut his teeth singing in the metal band Shai Hulud out of Florida. So, Chad, you're all over the place. Your music tastes are all over the place. And by the title of this on YouTube, Chad Gilbert on fighting cancer and recording an acoustic punk record, we're going to go into a deep conversation right now. But this is so thrilled to have you on the show. So very, very excited. So Chad, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, where you came from real quick, and how you got started in music.
All right. How I got started in music. So I grew up in South Florida, Coral Springs to be exact. Coral Springs, Florida. And yeah, there wasn't really much to do in Coral Springs. Like if you weren't into sports and you weren't like a jock, you just didn't really have much to do. So you kind of like hung out in garages and picked up instruments and started playing in bands. So that's kind of like how I got my start was, you know, like you said, singing in Shai Hulud. They were a local hardcore band, needed a lead singer. And I was at this local show and like I sang backups on the mic of the band opening, and Shai Hulud heard me scream, got me in the band. I was so young at the time. I was only like 15. So they were like, no, we got to go on tour. We can't really like have you be in the band, but we love your voice. And then they couldn't find anyone. So like, all right, you want to be in the band? And I was like, sure. Started singing in Shai Hulud. And then I joined my side project at the time, which was Newfound Glory, which is like, oh, this is my fun little side project. And Shai Hulud was like my full-time band. And then Shai Hulud like sort of changed members, and the biggest thing falling out I had was Shai Hulud was going on tour in Europe, and my mom didn't want me to go because I was, I think, 16 or 17, and it was like I was gonna be in Europe, by myself for like, going on tour with a hardcore band in Europe, 16 years old. She's like, nah. She's like, I don't want you to do that. And I told Matt, I was like, dude, I can't go. I'm not going to go. And he's like, well, we're going to go without you. And I was like, all right. So then that was it. They got a fill-in singer for the tour. And then I just started doing Newfound full time. But the biggest thing that like really, I think how Newfound kind of had a really big jump start was like, I was always into like, I'd say the marketing side, and not in a way of just like, oh, marketing, like you got it, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of, I would say the creative side.
Yeah.
So I would go to local promoters. Like I remember like Blink-182 when they were like playing this place that held like, 600 people back in the day. The promoter wanted to promote the show. I was in high school and I would go to all the record stores. So I'd go to her, hey, like, give me a bunch of flyers and I'll promote it, and you just get me in. She's like, cool. So I would like get into all the shows because I would promote the shows for free. And then so once I started playing in the band, they would let me open the shows because they knew Newfound Glory were in high school. So they knew that we all went to like 4 different high schools. So we would have access to like, teenage kids going to like see punk shows. So that was really how we got our start, was I was able to like get us to open for national touring acts locally because of like just who, our age and where we were. And, where a lot of the people in other local bands were older, and they were, they had their normal 9-to-5 jobs and would do their bands on the weekend. We were able to like run around and flyer and promote. So that's kind of like how we got our start. And then we figured out how to do that in other states by like renting a van and just promoting ourselves. And then, by the time I was a senior, we had a gold record on MCA, which was awesome.
I love this story so much. People don't really understand how young you were when you started, which is great.
Dude, I now when I look, so, I like,
you're still only like 24, which is awesome.
Yeah, 24. I work like, so here in where I live locally, like a lot of people don't know this, but I was like a youth leader, right? So I'm like leading, high school kids. I have students that are like, juniors and seniors, and I'm like, dude, in my head, I'm like, they look so young to me, and I think that was me in Newfound Glory touring at that age. It just blows my mind. Like, whoa, Luckily, I had my mom's trust, and my mom like. My mom actually went into the high school and because in order for me to get signed to MCA, I had to pretty much leave my senior year.
And get a permission slip.
Yeah. So my mom went in and talked to the guidance counselor and was like, hey, like my son wants to do this and has a contract. And the guidance counselor was like, yeah, you kind of got to let him, if you don't, he misses this opportunity, and yeah, so I still don't have my GED or my high school diploma, but I owe my mom. I need to get her my GED still. I'm going to do it. I want to now, like now that I'm 24.
Yeah. Now that you're 24, you need to go back and get your GED.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's back up real quick. Well over 20 years I've known Chad. So I think the first time I met Chad was on tour.
He was 3.
He was 3.
I was like, he was 3 years old.
Yeah, he was 3 years old on stage playing a Les Paul Jr. And it was heavy, but Chad was a tall 3-year-old, so he made it work out. I think the very first time I met you was at Skate and Surf Festival, and you guys were headlining, and I was touring with Midtown at the time. And then we ended up, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm like, okay, I get this band. Right. But I couldn't believe it. It was as if somebody sprinkled magic dust all over the kids I mean, it was a big festival. I don't know how many kids were there, 6, 7, 10,000 kids. I don't know. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And all these people were like losing their minds because Newfound Glory was up there. And I'm like, okay, this band might work. Okay, yeah, they're great. And I'm sitting here, and then they're like 4 years old, really, because that was a year after his 3rd birthday, right?
Yeah.
No, you're in high school, you're all like young as can be and like tight and like really innovating this, like, but it was I mean, what do they call it now? I think, Lindsay, I think we've learned they call it easy core, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
heavy pop punk, really.
Yeah.
But like your rhythm, your rhythms were great. Your like the way you guys play was just so tight. And then you got Jordan who
Yeah.
sings, and it's like if you put Jordan in front of any band, it's kind of, I mean, he can do it. Did you know? Fun fact: Jordan Punick, your singer, is in a band with our CEO and master designer Andy Powers. Yes.
Jordan has a secret life we don't know about.
Yes. So
Always.
Andy does, they do like a holiday time thing. And I think it's like a charity show.
Yeah.
And
The guys from Switchfoot do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
guys
yeah,
from
yeah.
Switchfoot. Lindsay, it would be like, I mean, pretty much everybody we had jump in for the live performance of I Know What Love Is. So it's those guys. And then
I had a friend play for it the other night. I know exactly what you're talking about.
the Watkins, right?
Mhm.
Sean
Mhm.
Watkins and his wife, and then, but anyway, so Andy, let's back up real quick. We did this acoustic session sound check with Newfound Glory, and Andy, I sent it to Andy, and Andy's like, you know, I'm in a band with Jordan, right?
That is so, yeah, I'm telling you, he'll randomly just like, he'll be on the bus, like, yeah, I was at this like, you know, cookout or like barbecue thing where I was jamming, and, you know, John C. Reilly was there, and he's like talking, he just has this weird life where he like, I don't know, he just has this whole, yeah, he has this whole like secret life that we find out about later, you know, like he performed with like Cyndi Lauper at her Changes, what is it called? She does a whole thing, you know, like
Yeah.
Pride, and you know what I mean? Like, and Jordan goes with her and has sung there before. And like, he didn't tell us, like, we just
Like,
found
we
out,
could
oh,
help
dude,
promote
Jordan,
this,
that's
dude.
awesome. Like, so cool. He does like really cool stuff. But I love Jordan because he's, you know, one thing we lucked out about is like having a really, really humble singer. You know, he's just like, he
does not have lead singer disease, as they say.
He doesn't, and he's not looking for people to kiss his butt, or he's not looking for credit, or he's just kind of like, he's a great dude that just likes singing in the band. You know what I mean?
So, Newfound Glory, you just had a record, and we'll get there in a minute, that just turned 20 years old. So you've got a wealth of releases out there. You've got a ton of music. You've been all over the world. But, you know, Mike and Lindsay and I were chatting, and it's like, we do have a bunch of questions. We just want to dive in, and the folks here in the feed, we'll do a little Q&A a little bit later with them. We like to stick to guitar about all this stuff, but we want to dive into music first. So why punk and metal? What drove you towards heavier music like that?
Well, I think it was, so the way we kind of got our sound, honestly, was like, you know, we ran our band where we all were like, you know, equal, you know, like everyone, that's when we all were super different. So it made us super equal. So we never really had too many of like people teaming up against like, oh, these guys are closer than this guy, right? Everyone, like me, Jordan, Ian, Cyrus, completely different people, right? So like all of our musical tastes were different. At the time when our band started, I loved New York hardcore, and New York hardcore is all about the groove. You know, it's not just about a heavy riff. It's if it's bam, 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 you know, it's like the backbeat, the groove, you know, influenced by hip hop, you know, like that New York hardcore sound. Then Ian was really into West Coast punk. He used to bring weed to all the West Coast punk bands, you know, when they'd come, when Blink was just Blink, Unwritten Law, you know, you name it, any West Coast punk band on any of those labels in the 90s, Ian was the dude with the backpack at the show, bringing them weed and hanging out. So
which is amazing, because I want to get to the point that Chad is true till death.
Yes.
So Chad has been straight edge forever, which is makes this whole thing great.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for Ian if I'm calling him out here, but like he was known as the guy. Like he was known to the bands. Like, oh, he's our, So Ian loved the West Coast punk. So he loved the, fast, no effectsy type fast stuff. And then Jordan was really into, emo. You know what I mean? Like true, Midwest.
Sunny Day Real Estate, Texas is the reason.
Exactly. Post hardcore, Midwest, emo, like that kind of stuff. So when we started playing music, we all, and Cyrus at the time, he was just into like radio rock. He was just like, he was into just like big songs. Like he just knew big songs. That was him. He was like more of the mainstream guy. So we all got together, and the thing we all shared is we all love Green Day. We all knew that Green Day Dookie was like, so we're able to like combine over Green Day Dookie, but then all add our thing. So that's why like our lyrics are, more, relationship, emotional based. Melodies are more emotional. The riffs are halftime groovy, things like that. And then, and then the punk beats, still punk band. So it's just kind of like, that's how we got our sound. And that's why I started putting easycore on t-shirts. And then it kind of, we call ourselves Coral Springs Easycore to, because at the time we only played hardcore shows. Because of me and Shia Lude, we would go on tour with hardcore bands like Snapcase and just, things like that. Like just, we would just play hardcore fests and hardcore shows. And that's kind of like how we got our start.
Okay.
That's so cool.
I know, it's so good. I love this. It's like
I love
history.
that.
Like,
I love that. Yeah.
Lindsay and I love easycore, pop punk. We love it all. Like, all of us, Mike, we all love this. It's just music to us, right? I had Stephen Edgerton from the Descendants on this show. I mean, we've had
he's the best.
Jim Ward from Sparta and At the Drive-In. Like we've had the artists that are just so influential to so many people, and they don't even know it, which is so incredible. Cool. So the funny one is, man, I got some tour stories that we'll dive into, Chad. But no, we'll get there. But so fast forward. You didn't do anything. This is going to be a fun ride, guys. This is like storytelling 101. It's great. So, Chad, I ended up tour managing Midtown again on the Blink-182 tour, and it was when Sticks and Stones came out, I think.
Right? It was just self-titled.
It was self-titled.
Yeah, Sticks and Stones wasn't out yet. Yeah, it was just 2001, so it was in between. We were actually recorded Sticks and Stones after that.
That is right.
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys were like, it's Blink-182.
Yeah.
They're massive. But you've all been to shows where that main support band starts going like this. Right. And it was like all of those Blink-182 fans were also there to see New Found Glory. So it was just, it was so magical to watch these guys tour and I was watching it with my own eyes. Both of these bands were just elevating and elevating and elevating and just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was just like in shock that like this band from Coral Springs, Florida, who come from all different walks of life, really are just going to be massive. Fast forward, we're here on a podcast together, and could you imagine did you think you were going to be around for this long, Chad?
No, I just think everything was like, all right, this has to be the last thing, especially when you get to the Blink tour, you're like, all right, this is it, this is the biggest thing, not knowing that we were about to record Sticks and Stones, which ended up being, propelled us in a whole other way. And then, just kind of keep going. I just, I'm definitely like psyched at where we are now. I think the way our band has been, I would say over the last 6 years has been the best, just because it's been easy. There's no pressure. We just like, all right, let's record a record, go on tour, kind of back, like, it's almost like back to the beginning, but you have more fans paying attention, where you just kind of, have fun putting together the records, the artwork, the videos, the like cool ways to promote it, the cool merch, the cool tours, express yourself through the music, and then, go on tour, and then, it's pretty cool.
I
Who
agree
came?
with you, Bandrew. I agree, Bandrew.
I was going to say, yeah. Who came up with the band name? Or I always love specifically like pop punk easy core band names and how they stumble upon them.
Well, ours is pretty funny. So our first EP was on a label called Fiddler Records.
I managed
okay.
Fiddler Records for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a local label in Miami, and the girl who owned the label was named Amy, and she was a local Miami promoter. And we just started, and she's like, "We need a band name," and we're like, "We don't have one." She's like, "Well, you have a show like in 2 weeks, and we need a name on the flyer. Like, what's your band?" I'm like, "Let me figure it out." So cell phones don't exist. So when Jordan gets home from work or whatever, you know, we have our little group phone calls. And Jordan worked at Red Lobster, which was he was a dish cleaner, and it was next to a Barnes and Noble. So the Get Up Kids had a song called, pretty sure it's on the EP that we love, called Newfound Interest in Massachusetts. Or Newfound Interest in Mass. Jordan was on break from Red Lobster, so he walked over to like, you know, Barnes and Noble, was just like looking through books and looking through things, and wrote like Newfound, and had a flag. He drew this flag thing because Jordan's actually a tattooer now, but he's really good at art, so he's just like, you know, just drawing it, and then like saw the word glory or something and just added glory. And then we're like, just put that on the flyer. That'll work. We'll think of our real band name later, you know, but just use that. So we put it on the first flyer as a fill-in name, and then just kept getting lazy, you know, where like after like 4 shows pass, we're like, we'll just use that. It doesn't mean whatever, and that's it. That's how we got the name.
So wasn't it
That's awesome.
wasn't it Newfound Glory at first?
Yes. So it was a Newfound Glory. And what happened was we got, and like, once we got national distribution in the States, and we would go to like the mall and go to Specs and Camelot Music, and we'd be like, yo, we got to see our CD's going to be in the store. We would go to like the A section, and it wouldn't be in the A section. It would be in the N section. And then sometimes we would go to the store and it'd be in the A section, not in the N section. And then we started getting fans. They would start going NFG, NFG at the shows. So we're like, the label and us were like, let's just get rid of the A because it's just causing a problem. And, we got rid of the A because of filing issues at CD stores.
CDs.
Yeah. And NFG just worked better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There aren't too many bands that start with like a vowel, like as this single word, that have had, you know, long-term successes, except for like A Tribe Called Quest. You know,
there you go.
Yes.
That might be it. So
That would have been cool though,
Yes.
if like you were like next to A Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
Right.
But you wouldn't have been in the hip hop
Awesome.
section, and they wouldn't have been in the easycore or pop punk section. So.
That's right.
But
anyway,
we throw the A on shirts every now and then. You know, we just do like a throwback A Newfound Glory. People dig it.
That's cool.
but look at what Bandrew writes. Before the Facebook, there was a Newfound Glory. That is true. Oh, Bandrew, we need to have you back on the show. You're great. I love this. So why guitar? What was that? You were a singer, but did you always play guitar?
So I kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. Like when I was a little kid, I wanted to play the drums, had a drum set, didn't like it. Like I just didn't get into it. Yeah, it was weird. Like I thought I would, but I think it was because I was a little too young when I started. But then, you know, when I was like in the 5th grade, no joke, I was like obsessed with Primus, you know, so I had to play bass. So
My name is Mud.
So I was a bass player. And I would take bass lessons all the time, and I got really good at bass, like tapping, slapping, you know, like, and then after like Primus, I got into, you know, I love bass players. So I loved Rancid, you know, and so I would take songs to my bass teacher, and he would, you know, help me learn them, and I play all these like crazy, bass lines. So I took bass lessons for like, through 2-3 years solid, and he's like, yeah, you don't really need lessons anymore. I was like, awesome. So I was just a bass player in a like local garage metal band. And then I kind of got bored with it and just wanted to play guitar. And so I just picked up a guitar and just started figuring out, guitar on my own. And then kind of like, and it's funny because I think like some of our riffs, like, I mean, I always I grew up, watching like the top 100 videos of the year, and it was always Guns N' Roses, in the top 2. So my lead guitar stuff has always been influenced by Slash, where like you can always sing Slash's leads. So that was always my goal of a Newfound. Like, if I'm going to write a lead, it's not going to be about trying to show how I can solo. It's going to be about, I want to write a solo that someone can sing along to. But I think one of the reasons a lot of our riffs are the way they are with some of our, like on Sticks and Stones, there's a song, Head on Collision, that was a single. And, the riff is dun dun bend and bend and bend and bend. That could be a bass line. Do 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 do. So I think some of my riffing and playing came from, learning bass first, because I figured out guitar on my own. So I had to apply. I applied what I knew.
Actually,
so
now that I think about it, Lindsay, right? Think about all the Newfound Glory riffs. You are a bass player, guitar player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, but what's crazy though? Years later, I find out that Ian was taking bass lessons at the same time as me from the same bass teacher. And we would pass each other in the hall. So me and Ian, both my bass player, was taking bass lessons from the same guy, Gary, at the same music shop. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Back when we used to take lessons and not watch YouTube.
Do you still play? Right. Do you still play bass at all?
Yeah. I have a couple basses upstairs in my house where my, where my guitars are, and I'll play bass. Yeah, for sure. I love
For the
it.
record, Jay hates slapping.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can't handle it, man.
Jay, do you want to talk about your hate for slapping?
Yeah, I have a dislike, extreme dislike for like the noise. Like it's just most slapping. Like
you don't
like
need to bring down the bass and play too many puppies.
So like there's some bass players who can kind of get away with it, but like sometimes but most of the time I'm like, it's just not my favorite frequency, and I leave it to my ears.
Right.
Like I love Flea a lot until he starts banner, and I'm like, no. But I'm more of like a groovy bass player. I like groovy bass lines. Like that's why you talk about Rancid. Like Matt Freeman is like all over the place, just up and down the fingerboard, and it's really magical. But yeah, Lindsay's right.
But every once in a while, we'll just play.
Bonin in the Boneyard. No, I was saying Bonin in the Boneyard by Fishbone.
Yeah,
that slap bass is insane.
It is.
You know that song? We want the funk.
Yeah.
Jay does not want the funk.
He doesn't want the
no.
He avoids the funk.
I avoid the funk.
I'll play Candy, and or just any kind of like prominent slap bass song just to annoy Jay in the office.
That's awesome.
I know, and there are amazing bass players that slap all the time, but like sometimes I'll listen to a bass player, I'm like, oh, that's so tasteful. Oh, that sounds so great. Right? Like bass riffs, and all of a sudden they're like, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, somebody mentions Mark King in the comments. You want to talk about a slap bass player? There you go. That's the guy to watch. Mark King from Level 42. He is the man.
Awesome.
One time Gabriel filmed something in Detroit for us, and the bass player showed up and he had one of those basses with like 47 strings on it, and I was just like, oh man, you know where this is gonna go. But anyway, so Chad,
yes,
guitars. Let's go to guitars real quick. It is a guitar nerd show. So what do you look for in a guitar when you buy one? You're predominantly an electric player.
Yeah.
And so we'll dive into an acoustic, but a little bit. But when you like, you're known for playing Les Pauls.
Yeah.
But I see that you're moving into the Telecaster world just a little bit. And why acoustic? What is this newfound acoustic love?
Well, I mean, we've always, on every record, we've kind of have a ballad. You know what I mean? We've always had ballads on our records, like a slow song or something like that. I just think with the acoustic stuff, I know we're talking more, but everything that happened with me, post-hospital stuff, I just, had my acoustic guitar out and just kind of kept playing, you know what I mean? And did I ever tell you the story of actually how we got our first Taylors? Did I tell you the story? I think
Gary Ashley. Tell me. Was it Gary Ashley? No.
So this is so like would never
Hans
happen.
Haydelt.
This
Who
would
gave
never
it?
happen now. But like, we were like on after Sticks and Stones, which was we had a couple consecutive gold records, which is amazing. We were going in to promote Catalyst, and they're like, we need you to go into the radio stations and play your single acoustic at like 8 or 9 a.m. We need to go, on the tour, we need you to go in there. And we were like so bratty, we're like, oh, really? Like, as if it's like such a big deal. Now we would do it every day. But back then we were like, oh, really? We don't have any acoustics, so we need to go buy them. So we just go to the store, and the label's like, well, we'll buy you them if you agree to it. So we agree to it, and we go to the store and look for the most expensive guitars.
Punk.
We picked two.
Oh, yeah.
We picked two of the nicest Taylor guitars. I think each of them were like, they were like $4,500 each or something. I don't know, something crazy like that one and that one. And that we did all the morning acoustic things. But we were bad at it back then. Like, we weren't good at acoustic stuff back then. Like, because we would just kind of play the song how it was. Now, like, what we've done is we kind of rewrite the song musically completely, so you get, and the coolest thing about it is you really hear like the appeal of the song in a whole different way. Like you might like the acoustic version better than the punk version because of the arrangement now, where back then we just like, all right, here it is, it's like, but yeah, that's how we got our first Taylors,
I love it.
Yeah.
So
It's a great story.
Mike and I want to get into writing. Mike has a few questions about writing, but like because I've kind of been around your writing and your process, and I've seen it over the last 20 years. So it's great having other people get to ask these questions. But Go ahead, Mike.
Well, one point to going back to what you were saying before about how what you write sort of has a baseline feel to it because you started off your musical journey mainly as a bass player, and that's not unheard of. I mean, you see there's a lot of bands out there where there's multi-instrumentalists within the band, but their main instrument in the band is something completely different than what they grew up with. Like Godsmack, Sully from Godsmack, he writes most of the material and it's very percussive riffs because he was a drummer. So it sort of follows along with that thing. And when you brought that up, that was exactly where my mind went. And that's very evident listening to your music. You can get that, whether it's a pounding 16th note bass line or something that's moving around a bit, it's definitely, you can hear that bass influence in it. So
awesome.
But taking that, what is your process for writing? Like, do you start on acoustic? Do you start with electric? Is it like you woke up with an idea in the middle of the night and just had that, the tape recorder next to your bed, like you hear people having all the time, you scribble down something really quick, a progression, and then go back to bed? Like, how does the process start, or is it just all over the place?
It really is all over the place. I think like if, there's two ways, like it'll start with a melody, like a vocal melody, and then I'll write the song. Like I could start, like I could be, at Publix ordering a sub or something, and I'll have my phone, and I'll think of a chorus melody. I could sing the melody in the phone and then immediately have a verse melody, pre-chorus melody, save that, and then go home and build the music behind it. That's one style of song. But I feel like if you hear that song, you almost know which one it is because you're not listening for the guitar riffs, right? But then, like, for instance, two of our biggest songs, My Friends Over You, which is that was all riff. Me and Cyrus were in line ordering like popcorn, and I was like, Cyrus, sing this, and I was going and singing over it. And then I got home, played the riff, wrote the music, and then the vocals came later. Same thing with All Downhill From Here. I was driving my car on my way to pre-production, and I started in my head, bam, 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 bam. This is before the iPhone, so I couldn't record it. So I'm driving fast, like, I can't forget this riff. And I remember, like, kicking in the door to pre-production. I think we were at Sunset Sound, or I forget where we were doing in West Hollywood, like pre-production, kicking the door, grab my guitar. I'm like, dun, 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 dun. I'm like, hit record on the little like tape cassette, to make sure we didn't forget it. So it's really all over the place. It just, it depends on, where I'm at. But I never really have a moment where it's like, I'm going to sit down and write songs. I feel like when I do that, I almost like impersonate myself,
Well, that's fair.
where it's like, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, then it's like, doesn't feel natural. Where if it comes natural, where it's just like, boom, there it is, then, then I can go in and write a full song off of, because I know, okay, I hear that A, oh, there's the chorus. So I hear the riff, and I could hear from that, like, where the notes are going to go, what works where,
It's totally inspiring listening to people write. Like, because we all have a different stuff. Like Lindsay does different things, and she's probably, and
That's
like
awesome.
Mike, you have different stuff. I mean, I've heard you just pick up guitars and like riff on stuff before, but I love this. And now you have an iPhone, and you can just go berserk.
And I look like a crazy person.
Right?
Yeah, because sometimes, like, do you need help, sir? And I'm like, I'll be in the store. Someone's, they see me walking around, like, pacing myself, because I'm trying to get away from people to sing a melody before I forget it. And they're like, this guy's psycho. What's he doing? He's going to rob the store.
So when you do, I do have a follow-up.
Yeah.
When you do, come up with these ideas, are you like, do you ever have times where it comes from like where it's situational, like where the environment that you're in at that moment drove that riff?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's funny because haven't really, bought a lot of, like guitars. Like I consider a lot of the guitars I have are from the early 2000s, like I have the same ones, so I don't like get a ton of new guitars. I did recently because of my back and all this stuff. But one thing I'll tell you is what I love is I find myself writing the best riffs on someone else's guitar at someone else's house. So I'll see a guitar sitting in a corner, and I'll pick that guitar up, and I'll just start playing with it. And I'm like, ooh, and it's a weird thing. Like definitely situational, where somewhere else on someone else's guitar, I have a better time writing a new riff.
I totally see that because, when you pick up somebody else's guitar, it's still a guitar. It's still 6 strings. It's still the same notes, but it's foreign to you. So you play it differently.
Exactly.
So out of that comes inspiration. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
That's interesting. That's smart. I like that a lot. Okay. So, we could dive into production. You've produced a handful of people. It's really inspiring, but how did you get connected with Lisa Loeb? And you produced not just one record, 2?
No, just one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one record. Lisa Loeb. I just I met her through Rusty from
Pistachio.
H2O. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Rusty and Debbie. I'm trying to think of how I actually met her in the beginning. But basically,
Rusty Pistachio plays guitar in a band called H2O, and his wife Debbie was Max Weinberg's assistant on the Conan O'Brien show. So she was like music director.
Yeah.
So that's where this is coming from.
Yeah. And then we covered on our second movie cover album, Stay. That was on Reality.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And we got her to sing on our punk version. So I became friends with her kind of like through that connection. And then I made, I did the H2O. I produced H2O. I produced The Day to Remember. So I produced some records. And then I was like, man, I love Lisa Loeb. I was like, let's do.
That's so good.
All right. That's a funny comment. So I just contacted Lisa Loeb. I was like, hey, I think that, if you made a record now with because she was doing a lot of kid songs. which were really successful. She's doing, kid albums and
Yep.
and stuff like that. I'm like, but let's do like a record together. I would, I'd love it. And I, like I hit up Tegan and Sarah, and Tegan, sent some ideas over, and then we kind of had this whole team together. And I'd go over to Lisa's house with acoustics, and me and her would just hang out and just write songs. And she's so talented. I mean, we got in the studio, and I produced a bunch of bands, and from a different generation and different background. And then like you set up the mic and she just sings her first verse, and it's like, whoa, okay. She knows exactly what she's doing and what she's talking about. And it just
It's so professional.
So professional, blew my mind. And she's awesome. We're still friends. We talk all the time. She'll text me, and we call and talk on the phone still about, our kids and stuff. Cause my, with my baby, and she's always asking about stuff, and she's so cool. So yeah, it was such a cool experience because, I produced the record. It's called No Fairy Tale. It's super fun. And when she started promoting it, I got to play with her, promoting it. So like I was on Conan, me and her did Jay Leno. We did a bunch of like TV stuff where I was like the guitar player. We got to hang out. It was cool.
So awesome. She is a pro. She's really fantastic. We've all kind of been in and around her world for quite a long time, and she is always like the ultimate ambassador of Taylor. She's forward thinking and kind and generous with her time, and she's incredible. Okay, let's keep going. Touring. You toured a lot. I have one question. Where's your most favorite place to tour?
Come on. Well,
okay,
Japan.
Three.
Japan.
Oh yeah, Japan, right?
Japan all day. I love, like, from the shows to the fans to like going out and going to like the crazy arcades.
Jersey.
Like
Janet says Jersey.
Well, Jersey, yeah. Great place to play. Love Jersey. Vacation, Japan. Japan's incredible. And another beautiful city that, it's crazy because the shows aren't like insane there, but it's such a beautiful place to play and visit is Barcelona. The architecture, the city, everything. Like I love Barcelona,
That's rad.
Beautiful
I love
place.
it. Okay. Sticks and Stones, 20 years old.
Yep.
Did you ever imagine Sticks and Stones would go 20? Sticks and Stones was like a big part of my life. I love that record. But did you ever imagine, like I asked it earlier, like, how did you get to 20 years?
Dude. Man, I feel like it's crazy. I never thought it would still be this relevant and influential or impactful or whatever you want to say. But it's like just all the young bands that come out that are like, that, give it a nod and say it was an influence, like they give it life still, you know what I mean? And I think that, we don't play it like it's a 20-year-old record, and we play it like it's a new record. And I think that's the thing is I think when bands start to treat their old stuff as like, that was people start thinking of it that way. And I think like for us, like we love those songs still. We love playing them. And then we love our new songs, and we put our heart and soul in our new records, and we'll promote our new record. But we have no problem playing these songs that like have, influenced a lot of people. What the heck?
I don't know, but that was awesome. I don't know, whatever that
that
race car was.
Guitar pedal?
That was
that was the fart pedal.
It was the fart pedal.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do have the fart pedal. This was gifted to
God.
me for the Christmas time this year, the fart pedal. If you know about this pedal, it is wild. Maybe this isn't appropriate, but there is a wet and a dry setting, and it's fantastic. So if you're into laughing, the fart pedal. If you're into actually playing music, not the fart pedal. That was my ad for the fart pedal. Okay. Okay, Chad, before we get into the album and the acoustic tour, in the last couple, this is a very inspiring part. Chad is just an inspiring guy. Anyway, it's like we've now learned how he looks like a crazy person in the store trying to write music in his phone. We've learned all the many different ways that he's recorded some of the different songs he's playing. He's, has recorded his records, the success he's had, but you've had a run the last couple years.
15
And
months. Or
fif-
December 5th was my 1 year anniversary. So
Decem-
wherever we are. So a year and a month.
um,
13 months.
when you hear a friend in this industry is diagnosed with cancer, it hits hard. It's heavy. We've all dealt with disease in our families. We've dealt with friends and family who, somebody has been touched by cancer. I'm a baseball fan, right? And every year at the World Series, they do a moment of silence. And when you see the entire stadium holding up a sign that sometimes lists 3, 4, 5, 10 names on it, like it's a meaningful thing. And it's painful and worrisome, and it gives us all anxiety, and we want everybody to be healthy.
Yeah.
But when it's somebody when I first heard that Chad was diagnosed, it was on social. Like it's social media. Like we communicate, but it's sporadic from time to time. We communicate way more now since the diagnosis, but just saying, Chad, you hit the lottery with cancer.
Yeah.
And you are taking it by storm and really making it your own, and just get rid of this. Chad's positive mindset is like, get out. I got this. And I'm going to write an acoustic record and go on tour. So talk us through this journey that you've had. And ladies and gentlemen, I swear to you, this is inspiring.
I appreciate it. Well, yeah, so the reason why a lot of people heard about it, including my band later, is because I didn't know I had it. So a lot of times when people get diagnosed, it's at a level, and then you go home and you tell people, and then you start your work. Well, with me, my wife found me in bed unconscious, and I was in bed covered in urine and eyes wide open and doing something called agonal breathing. So what you do kind of like before you go into a coma kind of like state. So my wife, who's a lifesaver, called the paramedics, and they instructed her what to do to keep me alive. Mind you, we have a newborn in the house. So she's taking care of a newborn, giving me mouth to mouth, keeping blood going to my heart. So I wake up to seven paramedics around my bed, and I think I'm getting punked because the night before I watched Ted Lasso and just went to bed normal, just me and my wife go, oh, let's watch Ted Lasso, all right, going to bed. And I was battling, like I did have a lot of like crazy high, I had like really high blood pressure, and we couldn't figure out why, because I lost weight and did all this stuff to try to battle it, because the doctor I saw in California when I was on tour told me it was because of stress and all these other things. So I did all the things I was supposed to do, but my blood pressure wouldn't go down. And then the weekend before, my body started feeling numb at certain parts of the day. I would just like shower and get out of the shower, and I just felt like numb. It was a really weird thing going on. Anyway, so that morning I didn't wake up. Got revived. They shot all this sugar into my leg. It woke me up, took me to the emergency room. They didn't know what was wrong with me, but I couldn't hold sugar and I couldn't get my blood pressure down. So I had to be plugged in left and right. Like one hand was giving me sugar, the other hand was lowering my blood pressure. And so the next night they brought in the specialist who came in, and she sat down with me and my wife, and I'm in the hospital. And she's like, I believe God wants you, she's like, you're alive because God wants you alive. She's like, you shouldn't, here's why, like you have a very, very rare disease, very rare cancer called pheochromocytoma. She said, mind you, she said, I believe. She's like, tell me about your last 6 months. I told her, and she's like, you're here because God wants you here. Here's why, I believe you have this based on what you're telling me. We're going to get you scanned. I'm going to get you shipped to Nashville. We're going to cut this thing out of you, blah, 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 blah. I'm a specialist in this rare disease. She's like, I've cured 3 people of it in the last 6 months, and I didn't even realize how rare this cancer was, this pheochromocytoma. I think that the chances of catching it is like 0.0008. So that's your odds of catching this thing.
So like you really won the lottery with cancer.
It's crazy. And so I went in, they did the scan. Normally you move your pheochromocytoma is a tumor that grows on your adrenal gland. So what happens is it messes with your body. So a lot of people die from pheo before they know they have it because of the side effects it causes. The side effect, because pheo is so rare, doctors either don't know what it is or it's not on their list for something to check. And if it is, it's like way down the list. So like if you went in a doctor and you're like, I'm having high blood pressure, I can't sleep, I can't do this, all this stuff. They're like, think of all these other things. Well, what happens is it's a tumor that lives on your adrenal gland and it changes it messes with your hormones. So for me, it was just producing large amounts of adrenaline. So I'm filled with adrenaline, which is making my blood pressure go up. And then it changed one of my hormones to an IGF-2. It's like your male hormones, an IGF or something. So mine changed to, I think it's IGF-2, which gave me hypoglycemia. I think that's how you pronounce the word, where it ate all my sugar. So it just changed. It just it was this thing, eating all my sugar, doing all these things. And when I got the scan, we found out mine was 8 inches. So it was huge. So it really was about to kill me. And I lived in the ICU, the CCU, the cardiac, I think the CCU is a little different than the ICU. In Nashville at Centennial, I lived there for like almost 2 weeks, just waiting for my surgery. Became friends with all the nurses, and it was around December. I checked in December 5th, and I would listen to Christmas music, watch Kentucky basketball games and UFC, and live on my computer and live there. And they kept me. It was crazy because when I get up to pee, the alarms would go off because my blood pressure would go to like 220, 240, which is like, they're like, sit down. And, and so, I went to this, they wheeled me down that day, December 13th, to a surgeon, and they removed the tumor. And that was it. So that was supposed to be the odds of it. So this is the kind of whole journey. So that was my first thing, right? Where, she saved my life, got this thing out of me. My giant scar, it's called the Mercedes-Benz cut, so it goes all the way from here, down here. That's the Mercedes-Benz cut. So they took, so it's my adrenal gland, half my liver, my gallbladder, but they got rid of it. And so it was, everything was fine, recovering, went on tour, the first leg of the 20 Years Sticks and Stones tour, and it was great.
You came to a Taylor Factory tour.
And you remember my back was sore.
And your back was sore, and a couple of times you had to sit down.
I had to sit down. Yeah, so I went on the second leg of the tour, and my back was sore. And you remember after the show, I was like, man, like I could barely play, and my back was sore. And I did I did one more show. I think I did Arizona after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I woke up, the next show in Dallas. And I was like, guys, I got to go home. My back kills. I don't know what's wrong. My back kills. Flew home for a few days, got an emergency MRI, and I had a pheochromocytoma again in my T12 vertebrae and some in my lungs. So the plan was first they had to figure out what it was because they didn't know. It was like, oh, here's another tumor, here's some other stuff. So the good news is that what was in my lungs and what was in my spine, what's in my lungs still, and what was in my spine was genetically identical to the one that was in my stomach. So that means I didn't grow more, right? So if I was growing new ones, that's when it's a little bit more alarming. So I didn't grow new ones. It was genetically pieces of this one that just metastasized, fell, moved. The thing about pheochromocytoma, it's so rare that once you get rid of the one, a lot of people are one and done, right? So like the odds of growing more are rare. Fortunately, mine is, considered malignant. A lot of times, Theo is still so unresearched. A lot of times they don't even consider malignant or benign. It's benign. It's more of like metastasizing or not, because it's really hard to figure this thing out. Anyway, so I went in. That was the good news. The plan was to cut out half of my T12 vertebrae, or majority of it, leave a little bit of the tumor, and radiate the tumor, and then get this new therapy for my lungs. That was the plan. Well, then I had to heal my back before you can get the target radiation, because they don't want you to go straight from one. So 2 weeks went by, and I was about to go get my radiation, and I started getting hives. So I got on like a steroid pack. But what they think is that the steroid pack suppressed my immune system, and what was left of the tumor in my spine grew really fast, rapidly. So what happened is I couldn't, for like 2 or 3 days, I couldn't sleep. I was standing up in my room. I'd put on The Office. My wife would go to bed, and I would stand up and lean against the wall because I couldn't sit down or lay down. I was in so much pain. And then as soon as I was so tired, I could pass out for an hour, and then I'd stand up again. And then finally, my endocrinologist, who saved my life, was like, go to the hospital and get a shot, for the pain and, whatever. Because we still didn't know if the pain could have been recovering from my back surgery, So I go and I get the shot, and the guy's like, oh, this shot's going to knock you out. You're going to sleep forever. Like, this is like the best. Like, we're giving you so much drugs. So they give me the shot. He wasn't lying. They put me in a wheelchair. I was like, my mom and my wife got me home. They laid me in bed. I went to bed, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to sleep. I woke up an hour later, screaming in pain. An hour. And I told my wife, I was like, I got to go to the hospital. I got to call the doctor. They sent me up, they scanned me, and they found out the tumor came back and was squeezing my nerves again. And both surgeries, they had to rush because it was going to paralyze me. That was the biggest thing, is like, they didn't want me to be paralyzed. So I checked in, and by noon that morning, I had another back surgery. This one lasted 6 hours, and they removed all my T12, the lower left rib. They removed my disc above and below, a bunch of muscle in my back, and just like, they got it all out. And then a week later, I went into radiation, 10 treatments. They radiated the whole spot, everything, just to make sure, even though they cut it all out. And then I got this treatment on my lungs called Lutathera, and I just got it again December 29th. I was in quarantine for a week. So yeah, where I'm at now is 3 surgeries in a year, and I got a battle still with my lungs. But the good news is that it's the same genetically identical to what was in my stomach. So when we kill this, the odds of it are coming back are very, very slim. And so, not to bore you with the science stuff, but just to explain, so neuroendocrine tumors, pheochromocytoma is a neuroendocrine tumor. Neuroendocrine tumors have these things called somatostatin receptors. These receptors are the things that shoot the hormones and do all this stuff, right? But the treatment I'm getting right now is not chemo, right? So the treatment I'm getting right now, it's not chemo. It's this brand new treatment called Lutathera. It uses Lu 1477, I think it is. It's something from the periodic table, right? It's this radioactive material. It's like, kind of like next to what powers the Back to the Future car. It's like on the periodic table. So
yes, you're going back to the future.
Yes, but what's amazing about it is what they do with it. Because and unfortunately, as of now, it doesn't work for any cancer, because the cancer has to have these receptors. Because what happens is they radiate the molecules, they put it in this my arm, this PICC line. The PICC line goes in, lays over next to my heart. And when I go into the room, they cover the whole room, handles everything, radioactive thing at the door. The guys come in. So they put it in. It takes about, 20 minutes to get the radioactive material in. And then it takes like 3 hours for them to flush my kidneys with like fluid so I don't damage my kidneys. But why Lutathera is incredible is that it's a Trojan horse. So what happens is it goes in your body anywhere that there is a receptor. So in you don't have any receptors. So you would just pee it out. Me, I have tumors with somatostatin receptors. This Lutathera treatment finds the receptor. The tumor then thinks it's its friend and invites it in, pulls it in, and then when it goes inside the tumor, it emits radioactive material that kills the tumor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's funny because the first thing on the paper they give you, it says Lutathera is a safe treatment, but you will be excreting large amounts of radioactive material and stuff. So what happens is as soon as I leave there, I hop in the back seat of my car. My wife has to sit in the front. She drives me home, and I move upstairs, and I got to pee sitting down and close the seat after and flush twice. The shower, the bathroom, I have to shower every day. Everything has to be cleaned after every use. All my clothes has to be washed separately. I can't kiss my wife for a week. I can't touch my baby for a week and give her a hug or anything. It's really tough, but it all excretes through my kidneys and, urine and sweat and saliva. So you just kind of have to, I just live upstairs. And after 4 days, when my baby's like in her room, I can sneak out, right? And I can go get like coffee or something. But if I see it like a child, I can't stand near kids for like a week and a half. I can't be near a pregnant woman for 14 days.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh.
But the treatment's not chemo. So the sad thing, with chemo, it's really hard on patients because it attacks all their cells, So right now, this is just this. I did have a scan over the holidays for my spine and stuff, and I was all clear. One of my tumors did double in size in my lungs, which isn't good news. However, Lutathera works a long time. So my doctors are like, we didn't scan you to look at your lungs. We scanned you to look at the rest, but we can see, thank you. But they're like, we can see your lungs did grow. However, we're going to treat it like they're inflamed, because the Lutathera treatment doesn't want you to scan for like months after it's done, right? Because it takes a long time to work. So, we're treating it like it's inflamed. I got my second treatment, a week and a half ago. I go on tour. When I'm in Salt Lake, I'm supposed to see another specialist to give me a backup plan in case Lutathera doesn't work. And then I get home from tour. I get my third treatment, quarantine. A week later, I go on the second half of the tour and come home and get my fourth treatment. And then we'll know how the lungs are doing. But yeah, like the thing that's insane about Lutathera is, let's say like another piece of the tumor, God forbid, starts growing somewhere. This goes to wherever they are. So that's why it's 4 treatments. They're all 8 weeks apart because they take a long time to work through you. And also you're emitting so much radioactive material, you have to take the time between, but so that's the kind of journey I'm on. But, like the acoustic record, make the most of it, while, I feel like, like I want to be used, in a way where like, if I'm going through this and I'm doing this, God's put me in a place where like our band has lots of eyes and ears and exposure. And I'm just like, hey, you wouldn't believe when I announced I had Phio, one mom's like, oh my, this poor mom's like, my daughter died at 21 because for 4 years, the doctor just kept misdiagnosing us. And then she died and she had Phio, and a lot of people like that, and there's some people that follow me. They're like, I have Phio. I've had 7 surgeries already.
Wow.
So, and luckily I don't have the gene. So the real dangerous thing with pheochromocytoma is you can have a gene, and that gene you pass down and the whole deal. One fan sent me a story. His whole family has had them, but for me, yeah, it's sad. But for me, luckily, like, yeah, my daughter won't have to get scanned or checked because I don't have the gene. I just had a random mutation, and you can look it up. There is no one knows why you get pheo. So people will be like, "Oh, were you stressed? What have you been eating? Do you smoke? No. Do you drink? No. No, dude. Like, it's not about that. Like, you can, the good thing I'll tell you is, like, a lot of people say you get this or that, or this is the fact that I never drank, my kidney levels were good. So they could cut my kidney. I mean, I'm sorry, my liver levels were fine. My kidneys were great, all these, but I still had, this cancer. So the fact that, like, I chose some healthy decisions helped my recovery. Like when my neurosurgeon came in and checked my legs on the third day after my surgery, the first night when I got out of surgery, they want you to walk at some point soon, so you don't get blood clots and things like that. Because, like, in my surgery, I lost 2 liters of blood. That's how long the surgery was. So think about a 2 liter of Coke. I lost 2 of those. So that first night when they brought me back, they're like, "Yeah, we don't need, at some point, the next day or so." I was like, "Nah, tonight." And that night I was like, stood up, had my walker. I did a lap. Next night I did 2 laps. And then the surgeon came in on the third day and he's like, man, he checked my legs and he's like, where you are on the third day is where most of my patients are after 4 weeks, like, strength wise. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I just kind of kept pushing it. And I just think, like, yeah, like, I had a lot of love from friends and family, my wife, and really great doctors. And, and I just, like, through it, I was like, wanted to make music because, there are, like, really tough things that, psychologically you deal with and they're hard to think about. But if Jordan wants to sing them for me, that's easier for me. I can express my, like, tough thoughts through the music, get it out. And, the things that I don't want to think, not that I don't want to think, but the things that I don't want to say out loud that are hard to face, put it in song. And Jordan was just singing.
Dude, this is an inspiring story, and I really, really wanted everybody to hear it. I've heard you say it. I heard you stop a crowd at the Sticks and Stones 20 tour, and you told the whole story. Not the whole story, not in detail like that, but you told a lot of it. And you could hear a pin drop in the venue, right? Because it's that inspiring. But what's so inspiring, Chad, is that you have not let this stop you at all. We have an acoustic record coming out. We have an acoustic tour that you're doing, in which pretty soon we're going to announce some really cool stuff, how we're helping support that tour, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah.
You've inspired people you're using your platform to let everybody know about this very rare thing that no one knows about.
Yeah, it's rare.
And it's heavy. And I know everybody that was a heavy 15 minutes of conversation there, of listening to Chad's story. But Chad, I want you to know that you got a whole group of people here, and you've seen it in the comments already, but you got a whole group of people here that are, we're here. We support you. We believe in you. We love you. And we're inspired by you. And we're going to, I hope I've introduced people who may not know Newfound Glory or know Chad Gilbert or know the genre of music. Who cares?
Yeah.
I hope you all
we're better live than on record anyway.
Right. You now know Chad, and maybe you could think about, if you see Newfound Glory coming through on an acoustic tour, you could go see it. Because it would be something different to experience. And I think that it's special. Chad, you're very inspiring. Usually we do some Q&A. And I'm going to leave it at not doing a lot of Q&A. I did see a question earlier that was awesome, and it is, Chad, do you guys still have the Taylor guitars that you bought with label money?
Oh yeah, well, I'll be bringing it on tour. It will be on tour. Yeah.
You have had it, and you've done a couple of live acoustic things, and I saw you play it, and that's kind of how we got connected.
Yep.
It was like, man, I gotta get you guys some guitars, man. We gotta work this thing out. Anyway, so that's that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really inspiring having Chad on. I dive into the dude could write a book, and we could do a documentary on him. I mean, there's so much storytelling, Chad. It's just very inspiring.
I appreciate it.
So
thank you so much for sharing your story and being
100%.
vulnerable and being authentically you. And I mean, gosh, just thank you. That is such an inspiring story, and just a story I think is going to encourage a lot of people and help a lot of people. So,
and you got a group of people on this feed that are thinking about you and sending vibes and prayers.
Yes.
And everything is going to keep going. I got my boy Bill on here. I mean, he keeps posting. Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the most other inspiring people I know, Bill, and you got Gabe on here, and Guitar Dog and Zebo. All these people are here, and we got your back, dude. And very, very inspiring having you on the show.
Yeah.
So right now we do a couple more segments before we end. We do a little bit of trivia. This is one of my favorite segments. It's called Lindsay's Question, where she asks a question and she might stump you. It might be about guitars or music. It might not be.
No.
But go for it, Lindsay.
Am I asking this question? I thought we were doing something different.
No, you're asking, and then I'm going to do something
different.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Oh, you threw me for a loop because I don't even have one. Okay, hold on. I have one.
You got one.
All right. I do. I have one. I mean, I have one in the can, but like I literally thought I wasn't doing this. My bad. Well, I feel like you just shared this. I'm going to skip it. It was, what was your best scar story? So I'm going to skip that because I think you just shared your best scar story.
Thank you.
If you could choose any person from history to have dinner with, or this is be your imaginary friend, but have dinner with, to hang out with, who would it be and why?
Any person from history?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
From the past, whatever.
Okay, so this is probably like super weird and emotional, but I want to hang out with Robin Williams. Because I was in New York on tour, like, I'd say it was like 6 months before he passed away. And I was in a comic shop and I was buying comics and he walks by. And I was like, hey, man, thanks for all you do. He's like, oh, no problem, big guy. He pats me on the back. And then by the time I got in line to buy comics, he was in line in front of me and I was in line behind him. And we had this great conversation. I told him the graphic novels I was buying and he went and bought them. And we had a show that night, and we talked for a while and he's super nice. And normally I'm like, hey, would you like to come to the show? Nice guy. Like, I'm out, like I'm pretty outgoing and not like intimidated in that sort of setting. Cause he's just a dude. He's a nice guy. We're talking about comics but I didn't say anything. I didn't invite him to the show. And I'm like, man, I wish I did. And I wish I, talked to him more and like became his buddy. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know anything about him, but like, he was such like a nice dude that like, I wish I could just sit and hang out with him and talk to him, try to cheer him up.
Wow.
So I'd say Robin Williams. I always think about that.
That's a good one, man. Robin
That's
Williams.
a great answer.
That was like really close. Like it might've been like 3 or 4 months after that he passed away. And I was just like,
wow.
Why didn't I invite him to the show? Like, not that would have even changed anything, but just sit with that guy,
All right. That's great. Robin Williams. I think I want to know Robin. I mean, I think we all, man. That's a good one.
I mean, gosh.
Also emotional. So
I know. I feel bad. I'm like I've like, yeah, I don't know what it. Yeah. I think about that all the time, so that's the only thing I could think of.
That's a good one
right now.
No, that was good. That was a good story too.
All right, all right.
Can I,
so
can
usually,
I ask a question to kind of break things up a little bit?
yeah.
I have a very dumb question. This is
No
very stupid.
questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question.
No, you know this question, Jay. It's stupid.
No, listen. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's only good ones.
It's gotta be.
There's
good.
only good ones and great ones. This one is good.
Okay.
All right. This is sub good. All right. So the international superheroes of hardcore. Were you guys Marvel or DC? Like which one? Where did you align?
Man, we were kind of like, I would say we were more in the what is it? Image, like The Boys, you know?
Okay.
Have you seen The Boys?
I know what it is. Yeah, I haven't seen.
We were like that before The Boys, where our whole thing was like, we had this whole like comic idea, and it was all like we were gonna bust superheroes for being famous and rich. And profiting, instead of fighting crime, they're making movies, and we're here to actually, it was like a whole thing about, kind of that, and we, our whole start was how we were kids that, the record label, they saw how big superheroes were in movies, so like, oh, we need a superhero band, and they like kidnapped us and, filled us with the superhero serum. And that's how our band started, but then we like backfired. Like, no, we're pop hardcore, and our whole goal was to like bring down the Marvel and DC system.
Oh,
shoot, okay.
That was the whole thought process behind it.
Wow, nerd.
You know what's crazy is that the song "Superhero Sellouts." We mention every comic book character who has a movie, and it's crazy because it's not that long now. Because we did that song in 2005, so now it's like, oh my gosh, like
it'd be
so many, like we should
be like American Pie ×2 as far as the length, like if you had to mention everyone.
Yes.
Wow, nerds.
You know what, Jay? One more quick thing to just make you laugh. I have to say this because my childhood my best friend might be watching. He's like one of the biggest Newfound Glory fans ever. I mean, from the time you guys put out music, started listening to you guys, we were in middle school, high school, to like the 90s, 2000, early 2000s, and he has merch, everything. Went to your show in Washington recently, and he sent me, I told him we were doing this, I think he might still be watching, but I told him we were doing this, and he sent me this memory he has. We grew up together since we were little kids, and my dad's now passed, but he was at my house, we were probably 8th or 9th grade. He was at our house. This is back when, I'm not supporting this, but back when Napsters took off, and downloaded. So he's downloading a bunch of, like, we're on my dad's computer in his office, and he was downloading a bunch of Newfound Glory songs on my dad's, account type of thing.
That's
and he reminds me of this, and he goes, your dad, you called me the next day because your dad was wondering what was this new worship band, hardcore worship band, Newfound Glory on his Napster, and I was like. And he started cracking up. He was like, "You totally had your dad fooled. Just tell him their worship."
We get that all the time, Especially I live in Tennessee, so people are like, "Oh, you play music? Oh, what band?" I'm like, "Oh, we're called Newfound Glory." "Oh, worship band, huh?" Like, we get that all the time. That's so funny.
It was so funny. My dad's like, "Okay, you guys just downloading worship now?" I'm like, "Yep, that's what we were doing, Dad."
Yeah.
I got something I gotta say real quick. This one is for everybody in the feed. Do you remember this guy?
Sharp.
That's Chris Sharp.
I wasn't ready to be on yet. I'm just kind of staring at this, watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris Sharp. Okay, I don't know. Some of you guys know this, but Chris Sharp and I started this show called Taylor Primetime. He then exited and left to go do other parts of life and other careers. And yeah, that's right. You got Sharpie. Look at this. Look at this. You got everybody jumping in.
Dude,
you knew
backstage in the chat.
You knew when Sharpie was in the feed, he was going to jump on the show, people. We know this. Come on.
My God, I love what you guys have done with the place. It looks
We've done some good stuff, but Sharpie, We are going to omit 2 minutes of sports tonight. Here's why. We were going to talk about the national championship game, and
What
if
championship game?
you guys know the score
There
was
was none.
65-7, and Georgia
Yeah,
won.
there
So
was
we're
nothing to
just,
talk about.
there's nothing to talk about. But I thought it might be a good idea before trivia to bring Sharpie on. And Sharpie, do you have a Sharpie's question?
I do. Okay. Well, first of all, I was talking to Jay earlier today, and I had no idea you're going to be on the show or anything like that. So I just popped on, like, what's going on? And who's the guest? I immediately jumped onto punknews.org. I have it right here. And I was like, holy crap. Your tour was Something Corporate and Finch, Further Seems Forever back in 2002.
Yes.
I was like 17 years old and like defined my high school like age and everything like that. I was like, that show like changed me. Thank you for that, first of all.
Awesome. Which one? Which show did you go to?
Your first one, it was San Diego Cox Arena.
Oh, Cox Arena, yes.
Yeah,
That was
kicked
such a
off the
cool
tour,
show.
and it was fantastic. I have no idea what I had for lunch yesterday, but if someone throws on one of your albums, I'm like, I know all these songs and I can sing them. It's one of those things that's stuck with me. So thank you for your like everything you've made.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening.
And dude, your story that you were telling tonight, my eyes were sweating in here. I was just like, oh my God, like texting Jay and all that stuff. So I'm so happy you're feeling better and on the mend.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Thank you. Yeah.
When we started the show, I always did this little Sharpie's question thing, and it was always so dumb and stuff like that.
And now we're on our 4th season, and it's episode 78 because we like to take the summer off, and which ends up being we take 6 months off accidentally. So sorry about that, but keep going, Sharpie. Sorry.
My question for tonight is: you guys have been talking now for an hour, 41 minutes. 31 seconds.
Yes.
The question
Long
is for
show.
everybody. Are you guys almost done? Because Jay and I are going to a concert tonight and we're late.
Jay's my boss. I mean, I'm this is past my bedtime, honestly.
You are working past your bedtime,
I'm on
and
Central Time. So.
we appreciate you. So as we're all on the screen here, it'd be just super fun, real quick, just because we can. Why not? Let's add Gabriel to this as well. Hi, Gabe.
Hey.
How
you
you
like
doing?
the Brady Bunch right now.
It is the Brady Bunch, guys. There's a lot that goes into the show. We're very grateful for Sharpie for helping me do this. This is season 4. We're gonna kick this off. It's gonna be a great year. I can't believe we had Chad Gilbert on the show, which was fantastic. Chad's amazing. High fives. There we go. Lindsay is back. Lund will be here when he can. Gabriel is, of course, always in the feed and producing behind the scenes. Mike Venezia, what an amazing addition to this thing. So we got an Evans question real quick. We're going to do this. The prize is a Taylor Scent Smart Battery Box. You guys know the rules. Gabe cannot answer. Trivia, who's ready? Gabe cannot answer. Paul Tobias, who left early, cannot answer. And Evan cannot answer. Maybe we should throw Evan a bone once in a while. But this is a really great question. So we got a really good question. You guys know how this works. First one to answer in the feed, you got to send me an email and we'll get you your prize. You ready for this? Here we go. Gabe, roll the trivia question.
All right, come on, nerds.
Which of these artists never had a Taylor signature model? Neil Young, Jewel, John Denver, Serge Tankian. Dude, that one's so good. I hope this is the answer. Stephen Curtis Chapman. Which ones? Which one person, never had a signature model? Look at you. They already know.
Right there.
They're the fastest.
By the
Stan.
way, Serge Tankian's like one of the nicest people I've met.
That's true.
I
You
love
are
that somebody
right.
said Jay Parkin.
Jay Parkin never had a signature. I'm never going to get a signature model. Don't worry about that. You are right. Neil Young, Stand Step. You know the deal. You've won before. Send us an email. Yes, we did have a John Denver version, right? So we had Jewel. We had a John Denver. Was it like
It was a
tribute,
commemorative model.
Commemorative model. Serge had a model, which was a
You
T5.
got a T5. Yep.
And Stephen Curtis Chapman had a model. So there you go. There's the answer. Stay tuned to some emails for next week. We have great shows coming up for the rest of the year. We're really excited about. Sharpie, it's really great to see you. Gabe, it's always good to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody! After this, go watch the Newfound Glory sound check episode that I got to film in Nashville with these guys,
Good idea.
which was an amazing
That was
kind of
awesome.
highlight life experience to get to go film that and mix it and meet them, and go check that out after this if you need some more Chad fix.
Yes.
Yeah, Chad,
Mhm.
it's been so wonderful having you on the show, man.
Yes,
We
thank you.
appreciate your
Yeah.
time. We know it's way past your bedtime because you're in Tennessee right now, so we'll let you go. But thank you, everybody. We do have an Andy Lund outro. Once we're done with the outro, we're going to hang this thing up. We will see you guys next week. We appreciate your time. Gabe, roll the
Thanks for
clip.
having me.
See
Good
you, nerds.
hanging with everybody. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Chad.
What was it? What was it? It was prime. It was prime time. What the heck was it? We call it prime time. Well, that was the show for tonight. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks to Chad for coming on and talking about guitars and music. They're going on the road soon. They're going to be out, I believe, at the end of January. Check out Newfound Glory if you can. Check out Primetime next time we show a show on Primetime.
Later, everybody. We love you. Lindsay left. I'll see you.
Bye, guys.
Till next
Later,
time.